Something dangerous is quietly changing in America, and most people have not fully realized it yet. This is not about left versus right or Democrats versus Republicans. This is about power. Who holds it, who controls it, and whether it still has limits. Many voices in American politics, including Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and other figures linked to the MAGA movement, often say the biggest threat to the West is civilizational collapse. They argue that Europe is destroying Western culture through immigration and identity politics. They warn that Europe is losing its soul. But this argument misses a deeper truth. The West was never defined mainly by religion, tribe, or bloodline. What made the West different from most of the world was something far more important. It was the limitation of state power. Since the Magna Carta in 1215, Western societies slowly built systems to restrain rulers. Kings were checked, governments were limited, citizens gained rights, courts became independent, churches were separate from the state, private property was protected. This long historical process created democracy, prosperity, and stability. People could disagree with rulers without fear. Businesses could invest without political loyalty tests. Civil society could grow strong because power was bound by law. This balance is what allowed Western societies to thrive. That balance is now under serious threat in the United States. During the second Trump administration, these traditions have been weakened at an alarming pace. In Minneapolis, two people exercising their First Amendment rights were shot and killed. In that city and others, federal officers have operated while masked, sometimes using unmarked vehicles, making arrests without clear judicial warrants. The image and the experience feel authoritarian. It looks like state power without limits. And this is not just about appearances. The administration has repeatedly used its authority in extremely aggressive ways, often delaying compliance with court orders so long that it becomes a form of silent defiance. The Trump administration has openly moved against civil society. Media organizations, universities, non-governmental groups, law firms, and even private companies have faced pressure and intimidation. The Justice Department's plans to investigate groups like George Soros's Open Society Foundations, while the president himself describes them as criminal rackets, sends a chilling message. It suggests that political opposition can be treated as a crime. This is not how free societies respond to critics. This is how systems like Hungary and Russia operate. Instead of debating opponents, the state investigates them. The legal profession has also come under threat. When law firms are pressured through security clearances, access to federal buildings, or quiet warnings that representing certain clients may bring consequences, a clear signal is sent. Due process is no longer guaranteed. Legal protection becomes conditional. If the state dislikes your lawyer, your rights become weaker. This undermines the core idea of justice. Universities have faced unprecedented investigations and funding threats. You do not need to admire modern universities to see the danger here. The government is using financial power to force political obedience from independent institutions. This crosses a critical line. Independent centers of thought are essential in a free society. When the state controls them, freedom shrinks. The press, which has always been the early warning system of democracy, has faced constant pressure. Media outlets have been sued. Regulatory tools have been used publicly in ways that appear designed to punish or intimidate owners who do not follow the government's preferred narrative. In August, a federal judge ruled that the Federal Trade Commission's investigation into media matters likely violated First Amendment protections and appeared to be political retaliation rather than neutral regulation. This is a serious warning sign. At the same time, the administration has expanded state power inside the economy. This is not classic rule-based industrial policy. Instead, it resembles personal control. Business leaders are summoned, companies are rewarded or punished, regulators quietly suggest that approvals, renewals, or reviews may depend on political cooperation. In such a system, capitalism stops being competitive and starts looking like patronage. Success depends less on innovation and more on obedience. Hovering above all of this is the growing use of security state tools against dissent. These tools were designed to fight real threats. Now they are being aimed at political opponents. Consider the push to label some Antifa-related groups as foreign terrorist organizations. The definition is vague and poorly defined. National security experts have warned that it could become a broad trap. Under current law, providing material support to a designated group can mean decades in prison. Support can be interpreted very broadly. This is how democracies weaken, not by banning dissent openly, but by redefining dissent as something else. The administration often talks about the West as if it were a museum, flags, slogans, identity. But the true strength of the West is institutional. It is law that binds both the powerful and the weak. It is freedom protected not by good leaders, but by restrained ones. It is a civil society strong enough to challenge the state without fear of criminal punishment. The West is not a race or a religion. It is a deal. Power is limited. Rights are protected. Coercion is accountable. The real threat to the West is not tolerance or concern for individual rights. The real danger is the unchecked growth of state power. When that happens, the West becomes like every other society in history, where the strong dominate the weak. Seen this way, civilizational decay is real, but it is not happening in Europe. It is happening in the United States, where government power is becoming comfortable without limits, and where people are slowly becoming used to living under it. The federal immigration raids in Minneapolis and the killing of 2 civilians have sharpened a question now being asked across the world. What exactly is happening in America? How is the second Trump era being viewed globally? This question is now central to discussions among political leaders, journalists, and citizens everywhere. For more coverage and deep analysis like this, you are watching Global USA News. Around the world, people are closely watching the United States and trying to understand what direction it is taking. The question is no longer limited to domestic politics. It has become a global concern. International observers are asking whether America is still committed to the principles that once defined it. These concerns have become especially strong after recent events linked to immigration enforcement and public protests. Across Europe, populist conservative movements have often supported tough immigration policies. Many of these parties have argued for stricter borders and faster deportations. At first glance, the Trump administration's approach might seem like something they would strongly support. But recent developments have created discomfort even among these allies. The public reaction to the Minneapolis events has been one of shock and unease. Images of aggressive enforcement and civilian deaths have caused visible hesitation. In the United Kingdom, political figures who usually praise strong border action have begun to show caution. Some have said enforcement may have gone too far. Others have remained silent. In France and Germany, leaders of right-wing populist parties have avoided clear statements. While a few local figures have praised the actions as firm policy, national leaders appear unsure. They are trying to balance their tough immigration message with growing public concern about state violence and overreach. This hesitation comes on top of earlier tensions caused by foreign policy actions, including confrontations involving European sovereignty. These moments forced European populists into difficult positions. They strongly defend national sovereignty, yet found themselves opposing American pressure on European territory. This contradiction made it harder for them to fully align with Washington. Despite this discomfort, many of these movements still want stronger action against illegal immigration. That position has not changed. What has changed is the awareness that aggressive state power can quickly become politically dangerous. Voters may support enforcement, but they do not support chaos,
fear or loss of basic rights. Images matter, methods matter, and public trust can vanish fast. From a broader perspective, what is happening in the United States is not just a policy debate. It is a test of democratic limits. Democracies do not usually collapse overnight. They erode slowly. Institutions weaken. Norms break. Exceptional measures become routine. Power expands while oversight shrinks. History shows that free societies die quietly before they die loudly. They lose legal protection step by step. Courts are ignored. Critics are labeled threats. Independent institutions are pressured. Citizens adjust. Fear becomes normal. Silence becomes safer. The most troubling part is not a single raid, a single law, or a single decision. It is the pattern. When the state gains the habit of acting without restraint, it rarely gives that power back willingly. What begins as temporary becomes permanent. What begins as targeted becomes broad. For decades, the United States presented itself as a model of limited government and protected rights. That image carried enormous influence around the world. When America weakens those principles at home, it weakens them everywhere. Other governments watch. Some copy. Others feel justified in their own repression. This moment forces a difficult but necessary question. Is the United States still committed to being a society where power is restrained by law, or is it moving toward a system where law bends to power? The answer will not be decided by speeches alone. It will be decided by courts, institutions, journalists, citizens, and whether they insist that limits still matter. Civilizational decline does not begin with foreign invasion or cultural change. It begins when people accept that power no longer needs permission, when leaders act first and justify later, when opposition is treated as danger, when rights exist only for the loyal. America now stands at that crossroads. The world is watching closely, and history will remember what choice was made. For truth, context, and global perspective, stay with Global USA News.